no other car brand in history has had such a successful comeback like Cadillac. In 1998, Cadillac's days were numbered, their sales were abysmal compared to its peak, and they would abandon this idea of their cars being the standard of the world because simply they weren't anymore, and they hadn't been for some 40 years. They would adopt a new mantra, the art and science philosophy, a risky but forward-thinking approach which meant new clean sheet designs intertwined with technology, a focus on rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive platforms, and most importantly, cultivating a racing pedigree that had been lost for nearly 50 years. This is the story of how Cadillac went from a failing luxury manufacturer whose customer base was, I kid you not, literally dying from old age, to one that would compete in Le Mans, IMSA, Formula One, all while dropping some legendary models with a little V badge. The Cadillac brand has always been General Motors' premier models. In the GM ecosystem of the 90s, it was their most expensive and exclusive offerings, and that wasn't saying much. Its sole purpose was to cash grab baby boomers out of their pension checks every month. They didn't hold a candle to their German and Japanese competition, and that was shown in sales figures for 1998. Chief designer Wayne Cherry knew the end was near for Cadillac, and he would put pen to paper, and 90 days later, he and his handpicked team would turn some sketches into a three-dimensional model, and it would be the ticket out of an almost guaranteed bankruptcy. It was called the CTS, short for Catera Touring Sedan, and it was a rear-wheel drive entry-level luxury sedan styled in a way that would define Cadillac for the next 2 decades. To kick off this company-wide revolution, Cadillac would prepare their return to Le Mans after a 50-year hiatus. And to do this, they contracted Riley and Scott to build a carbon monocoque prototype class racer for the American Le Mans Series and the 24-Hour of Le Mans. Cadillac didn't just sit back and write a check though. They actually provided the power plant, a 4-liter variant of their North Star dual overhead cam V8, but with 2 IHI turbochargers massaged by McLaren engines and pushing 22 psi boost and over 600 horsepower. The North Star LMP was a blip in the racing history books. A 13th and 14th place debut at Daytona didn't make Cadillac an overnight success, but it was a step in the right direction to get their cars some pedigree.
And we feel strongly that a car like the CTS-V is considered in the same breath with the BMW M Series and the Audi S Series.
At the time, Cadillac didn't have a dedicated performance option for their cars, but GM executive Bob Lutz, who previously helped BMW create their M Motorsport division, would replicate that same business model with Cadillac. These new cars would have one letter to differentiate them from the rest: V. The first V was built on the newly introduced CTS. Since the North Star dual overhead cam V8 wasn't far enough in development, they went to GM's powertrain division to snag the 5.7-liter 400 horsepower LS6 from the Corvette Z06. It was a decision when looking back was the best move Cadillac could have done. It was simpler being a pushrod V8, only the motor mounts, oil pan, and exhaust manifolds needed reworking, saving tons in engineering costs. And hence the CTS-V was born. In 2004, its benchmark was no other than the BMW M5, and they were equally equipped with 400 horsepower, only available with 6-speed manuals, big brakes, retuned suspension, and limited slips in the rear. Where the inequalities were shown were in the price, the V being around $20,000 cheaper, which to some was enough wiggle room to justify having to own a Cadillac in the early 2000s. To demonstrate its technical capabilities, GM Racing, in collaboration with Pratt & Miller, would develop the CTS-V to compete in SCCA World Challenge. It maintained 70% of the components of the original car. The weight was decreased with carbon bodywork, and the bigger 6-liter LS2 with 500 horsepower and dry sump lubrication would come together with 2 manufacturer wins in 2005 and 2007. By that time, the V brand was in full swing. 2 more models came into fruition: the longer wheelbase Sigma chassis STS-V and the Corvette's wide chassis based XLR-V. The Northstar V8 would be re-engineered to withstand forced induction by a 2-liter Eaton supercharger, and that included beefier lower compression pistons, thicker rods, a smaller bore for better stability, and multi-layer steel head gaskets. The supercharger used 4 intercooler cores with coolant flowing from front to back to cool the pressurized air charge by 100 degrees Fahrenheit to curtail detonation, and altogether it made 469 horsepower in the STS-V and slightly lower 443 horsepower in the XLR-V due to a more restrictive exhaust. The STS and XLR would not stand the test of time though. General Motors hemorrhaging its cash reserves every month to stay afloat during an economic recession forced Cadillac to separate the wheat from the chaff, and the V-Series was down to just 1 model, and the next one had to be stellar. The CTS-V received a makeover in 2008 for the 2009 model year, and supercharging trickled its way down into the CTS with an engine called the LSA. The 6.2-liter LSA was similar to the 6.2-liter LS9 in the ZR1, but used a smaller 1.9-liter Eaton supercharger versus the 2.3-liter unit in the ZR1, a more docile camshaft specification, a lower peak power number since GM didn't have an automatic transmission that could survive the LS9's output, and an automatic transmission option was crucial with the STS-V being phased out. Nonetheless, at 556 horsepower, all being transferred to the rear tires, it was a whining animal that could still be tame enough to be valeted. It wasn't just a tire destroyer either. 6-piston Brembo brakes, magnetic dampeners, and a limited slip differential would help it become the first 4-door sedan to lap the Nordschleife in sub 8 minutes. One chassis with 3 different body configurations, which all of them had the ability to be spec'd with the Tremec TR6060 6-speed. The coupe, being the most aggressive aerodynamically, formed the basis to the CTS-VR. Pratt & Miller would shave 1,000 pounds from the curb weight, give it a massive spoiler, brakes, some racing slicks, and K-Tech engine development would build a 6.2-liter naturally aspirated engine to comply with the Pirelli World Challenge GT class rules. And it would absolutely dominate, taking back-to-back manufacturers' championship titles in 2012 and 2013 against a slew of 911 GT3s and its big brother, the Corvette Z06. On the streets, the CTS-V2 was a tuner's dream, since relatively simple modifications like a smaller upper supercharger pulley and a larger diameter balancer would overspin the 1.9-liter supercharger to produce more boost, which made more power. The LSA engine wasn't just impressive by its numbers, but also its reliability, commonly reaching north of 100,000 miles in even modified form. Today's sponsor Surfshark is built around that same idea of reliability, helping to keep your connection secure whether you're at home, in a hotel, or traveling abroad. Public Wi-Fi is convenient and free, but often implements weak security measures. Imagine turning up the boost on a stock engine never designed to handle it. Surfshark is a VPN, or a virtual private network, that masks your IP address, making your online activity much harder to track and fortifies your privacy like a forged crankshaft that can withstand an onslaught of abuse. It's more than just a VPN, it also protects you from phishing scams while checking your emails, and it can change your virtual location to access geo-restricted content on streaming services all in one place. Now, I can finally watch Roadkill while traveling by just changing my IP address. So go to surfshark.com/337speed or use 337speed at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN and reinforce your privacy while also enjoying the perks of the best VPN out there. The Sigma 2 chassis underpinning the CTS-V2 ran its course quite well, considering it was conceptually designed in the late 90s. Its evolution would come in the form of a new architecture called the Alpha chassis, which prioritized removing unnecessary weight while bolstering up rigidity. The ATS-V was the most unconventional V offering since it was missing 2 cylinders, but the LF4 dual overhead cam V6 made up those shortcomings with 2 turbochargers. The connecting rods were a titanium alloy for decreased reciprocating weight, so were the turbines in the turbochargers. It had air-to-water intercooling like the S55 inline 6 from BMW, and at 18 psi of boost, it could produce 464 horsepower, all going to the rear tires. It was so much like an M3 and M4 that even the track times were usually within tenths of a second. Its big brother though, the CTS-V, wasn't too concerned with track times. The LT4 engine in it was plucked from the C7 Z06. The 1.7-liter Eaton rotor pack was now spinning at a higher RPM, creating more boost than the LSA it replaced. The compression was higher, the cam profile slightly more aggressive, fueling was now direct injected into the combustion chamber, and that equated to nearly 100 horsepower increase over the LSA. Both cars had big Brimbos, chassis stiffening, magnetic ride control, and 8-speed automatics, but the ATS-V, being the lighter track-focused offering, had the option of a 6-speed Tremec manual, and even a coupe format. That coupe format would form the basis to Cadillac's now 4th racing variant, the ATS-V R. Pratt & Miller again outfitted the ATS-V to FIA GT3 specifications. The LF4 was updated with larger Borg-Warner turbochargers, bigger intercoolers, Bosch engine management, and side-exiting exhaust to make up to 600 horsepower. The ATS-VR was piloted to a Drivers' Championship win in the Pirelli World Challenge, but struggled to snag any manufacturer wins against the Ferrari 458 GT3 and the Porsche 911 GT3R in Cup cars. The CTS-V3 didn't see the track though, rather its street reputation became that of legends. By 2017, Cadillac would start to explore the concept of their cars having their own bespoke engines, not just repackaged Corvette equivalents, but actual exclusivity to the brand. And this would lead to the spiritual successor of the Northstar LC3, but now called the Blackwing V8. It was a more European design, basically Cadillac's take on the BMW N63 TU or Audi 4.0 T V8, but not nearly the problems associated with those engines. Being a hot V, the exhaust heat and pressure directly impinges on the turbines, making lag virtually non-existent, effectively making 90% of the engine's peak torque available below 2,000 RPM. At 20 psi of peak boost pressure, the LTA Blackwing V8 made 550 horsepower, and it was only offered in the Omega chassis-based CT6-V. After a 14-year hiatus, Cadillac would return to prototype racing, this time a chassis built by Dallara, and a name that was just as complicated as its electronics. The Daytona Prototype International V.R was Cadillac's entrant into the IMSA Sports Car Championship, and with it, a 6.2-liter naturally aspirated V8 engine based on the LT architecture found in the Cadillac CTS-V. The CTS-V3 donated its styling cues like the wheels, the vertical lighting elements, and the Brembo brand of brakes. In its debut at the 2017 Rolex Daytona 24-hour endurance race, it was instantly competitive with a P1 and P2 finish. The next year, it would downsize the engine from 6.2 liters to 5.5 liters for drivability, and would score Daytona wins in 2018, 2019, and 2020, essentially 4 consecutive Daytona wins, a huge milestone for Cadillac. With their newly found success in prototype racing, this meant a continuation of the V brand of road cars. The CTS-V3 and ATS-V would get their spiritual successor with the new naming system, the CT-5V Blackwing and the CT-4V Blackwing. The CT-5V Blackwing retained the same LT4 from the V3 and also the return of a 6-speed manual transmission. The 28 horsepower increase over the V3 can be attributed to a new supercharger lid that is taller, allowing for more airflow, a better cooling efficiency, and a less restrictive exhaust. The CT-4V Blackwing's changes are quite the same. The LF4 engine now has a less restrictive intake and a more aggressive calibration, making 8 more horsepower. Cadillac V models were no longer just a cheaper alternative, they held their own when compared to their European equivalents. And the best way to follow up this success would be a 6,000-pound SUV with a V badge. This time, the Eaton 1740 rotor pack was changed for the 2650 unit found in the C7 ZR1, since torque was needed to move 6,000 pounds swiftly in the Starbucks parking lot. Since the vehicle weighed over 6,000 pounds, it didn't have to adhere to the same regulation of passenger cars, so the powertrain calibration and exhaust system let everyone in a 10-mile radius know it had an LT4 in it. And it wasn't a canyon carver, it was the biggest flex in the pickup line at the private school. Cadillac's comeback is a testament to listening to your customer base. Keeping the manual transmission alive. Making cars that can actually take turns. And then maybe as a manufacturer, you can stay alive to see it all come together. Yes, Jaguar, I am talking about you.